You're listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubble.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Bloviating Zeppelins Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct from the SHR Media Studios. Surrounding me right here, where I don't have to change a thing, and I can just leave this room by itself. Nobody disturbs me. Nobody screws with me. When I leave it to go someplace else, it's just the same way when I come back. This is the first place I've ever had to my own little lonesome where I can say that. Well, who am I? I am also this guy. I am your conservative Sherpa. I am guiding you through the maelstrom of Demorat leftist globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. And thank you for being here tonight. I greatly appreciate it. I appreciate one and all. This is kind of a strange show because it came to me at the last second. And the reason it did, well, you'll see why a little bit later. So what am I doing here? I'm fundamentally changing America, one leftist red diaper doper baby at a time. Michael Savage, stealing it from him. Great message, always had a great message, was one of the worst messengers ever possible. So we don't water our drinks, just like we don't water our conversation. We are still serving stiff drinks in the saloon, along with facts, history, logic, rationality, proportion, context, clarity, tradition, and common sense for normal people like you and me, and that's why we're here tonight. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here in the saloon, where the speech is free, but the booze is not. I am streaming now on a whole bunch of different places, a whole bunch of different locales. Let's see. I am on my X or Twitter, which is at BZ's Saloon, at BZ's Saloon, and at KLRN Radio. I'm streaming live on the SHR Media YouTube channel. I'm streaming live on the SHR Media Rumble channel, and a whole Twitch, and basically every place that you can think of where good podcasts can be found. Apparently, there are some bad podcasts. Maybe they chew your shoes or pee on the carpet. I'm not exactly sure which. There are some things that came up over yesterday and today that I recently discovered. Now, the reason I'm doing this show on a Saturday, I would if I had an extra show to do, I would do it on a Sunday. But of course, nobody's going to be around listening to podcasts tomorrow, February 9th, because it's Super Bowl. So I thought, okay, well, instead of doing a show Sunday night, and I got a lot of stuff to say and a lot of videos to show, do it on a Saturday night where maybe people have already kind of been tossing down, imbibing some things to imbibe imbibaciously, like BZ right here. So I've got one person watching live right now. So I have to say thanks to Lost Wanderer, who is in the chat room right now. And as far as that's concerned, jump into our chat room. I'm going to be changing the chat room. It did have this big Sasquatch kind of sofa. This is our chat room for this week. And I've been telling everyone that we're going to have a new chat room next week. I've spent literally multiple thousands of dollars on the chat room that's coming. And when you see it, no one will be unimpressed. You'll either love it or you'll hate it. But it'll be as comfortable as I can make it. And I'll tell you what, here's the deal. Of course, as per normal, if nobody likes the chat room, okay, I'll change it back. And Lost Wanderer says, bad podcasts. Oh, and he'll be doing one tomorrow night because I'm special. Folks, we're all special, including the people that are, let's stop this, and including all the people that are affected by USAID. Here's a gentleman that wants to tell us quite personally about what has happened, how his life has completely fallen apart, fallen asunder because of deprivations via no funding for USAID.
It's been what? It's been like 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I'm done.
Sad.
You want to talk about regretting your vote? In 2 weeks, I went from the highest high to being unemployed. No. Lost my job last night. Got a phone call. The repercussions of what Elon Musk are doing with the USAID has real repercussions for real people.
This is gripping.
For the last 7 years, I have been a shift lead on Project Bus.
Look at his poor daughter.
Where we studied to find out if the wheels on the bus went round around or not. And all of a sudden, Elon, who's not even elected, gets in.
Oh, no.
And I'm out of a job.
Oh, my God, no.
What do I tell my family? What do I tell my kids?
Oh, man.
This isn't a joke. This USAID stuff is not a joke, man. It's affecting real people.
Yeah.
And the worst part is, what if we never figure out? What if we never figure out if, in fact, the wheels on the bus do go round and round? Does nobody care?
Nobody cares. Everybody cares. Come on. Then I have to play this. This is why the DNC and Demorats, unless they change everything 180, it's going to be glorious come midterms next year. Take it. Let me put this up. Take it away, DNC.
Rules specify that when we have a gender non-binary candidate or officer,
right,
the non-binary individual is counted as neither male nor female, and the remaining 6 offices must be gender balanced.
Oh, no.
With the results of the previous 4 elections, our elected officers are currently 2 male and 2 female.
Okay.
In order to be gender balanced, we must elect 1 male, 1 female, and 1 person of any gender. So again, this is what we have to do for this vice chair race.
Okay.
We have to elect 1 male, 1 female, and 1 person of any gender. To ensure our process accounts for male, female, and non-binary candidates, we conferred with our RBC co-chair, our LGBT caucus co-chair, and others to ensure that the process is inclusive and meets the gender balance requirements in our rules.
Exactly.
To do this, our process will be slightly different than the one outlined to you earlier this week.
Oh, no.
But I hope you will see that in practice, it is simple and transparent.
Perfect.
The order of balloting is designed to ensure equal access to the ballot, regardless of gender identity.
Okay.
As we must elect a candidate of any gender as well as 1 male and 1 female vice chair, we will first ask members to elect a candidate of any gender on the first ballot.
First ballot.
Any candidate, male, female, and non-binary, can be elected on that ballot.
First ballot.
After a candidate is elected on the first ballot, we'll have one officer of the three. So then we will know which position is filled of the one male, one female, and one vice chair of any gender.
Okay.
Our second ballot would also be for a candidate of any gender. Then our third ballot will be the third position that is remaining based on the two results.
Right.
Either a male candidate if a candidate that is not male has not been elected, or a female candidate if a female has not been elected.
The confused diatribe was mocked relentlessly by online commentators.
I can't imagine why, but it's good to know that the DNC is going to shoot itself in the foot once again. I think that's a glorious thing. So from this point, there are going to be a ton of revelations. I'm going to start with some of the negative things and some of the things that we need to know up front, and then we will move over very nicely to happy stories because, as I am wont to point out, there are a ton of happy stories. Now, I customarily watch and listen to Gordon Chang. He's an expert on China. And he has an issue and a problem with the Chinese. And he's saying that essentially things may be bad if they decide that they're going to attempt to go into Taiwan.
So how do they get out of China?
The cartels facilitate all of that.
They smuggle them out of
They
China?
do. The smugglers are the ones who set up all the travel. It's once you get to the countries where you don't have the visas, once you get here, that's when they're making it in illegally. But most of their travel is legal travel until they get here.
When they're in China, they don't have the money.
Mhm.
Do they get that from the cartel?
They do. They do. The cartels, they facilitate all of that
So
travel.
they get them the money.
Mhm.
So they're in debt to the cartel.
They are.
And then they pay the cartel back how?
Once they get here, they go into the different industries, whether that's the food industry, there's sweatshops in New York City, it's the sex industry as well, but they're forced to pay that money back, and they've got to pay that money back.
And how about the military-aged Chinese men?
We don't know what their purpose is here in the United States, but it's going to be bad.
I'm
Are
sure it's
some
good.
of them
Yeah.
being sent here by China?
We believe so.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they're spying when they get here.
Whether they're spying, whether they're coming here and just laying in wait for some other purpose, we just don't know. That intelligence just hasn't been developed yet.
Does anybody monitor them? Does
No.
anybody follow them?
No.
We don't know where they are.
That's correct. When these people are released, we lose complete contact with them unless they show up to their court appearances. The moment they're released, they disappear into what President Obama termed the shadows of society.
So nobody follows them, nobody
No.
monitors them, nobody.
We give them dates that they're supposed to show up, but the vast majority will not.
So we have no idea what they're doing
None.
or where they are.
None.
No, of course not. Those are war age males, Chinese war age males already in this nation. There are cells already in this nation. Wake up, folks. We need to realize that that's what our open borders have done. Now, I want to say this. There's so much stuff, but let's see if I can find it. Border crossings are down 90%. After the Trump crackdown, and the New York Post says, was it something I said? And the answer is obviously yes. It was something I said. It's making America strong again and holding its borders sovereign again. Here's a guy who happens to be a technician, a media technician, whatever the hell that is. Maybe he punches the button that makes the wheels go round and round. I'm not sure. But he's at Boston University, and he called for Doge employees to be killed. Like these young kids. And then he names them. Then further, this is the guy, if you happen to see him, assistant media technician. So he's calling for these people to die, what he considers to be Musk's coup. And if you want to find out again what it is that he looks like, that's him. That's the guy. But apparently that's okay. Nobody's going to go after him. Nobody's going to do anything with regard to him. And then this recently in terms of lawfare, a judge named Paul Engelmeyer has one-sidedly forbidden all of Trump's political appointees, including Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, from accessing Treasury Department data. That ruling, which has no legal precedent or constitutional justification, is judicial sabotage. And in addition, I should care to mention that it was issued ex parte, which means that nobody got notified. Nobody wasn't given any kind of a certificate of notice. They didn't know to appear, so they didn't appear. Not having been given notice, they weren't allowed to argue. They weren't even in the room when this guy made his ruling. So this is lawfare. He's an Obama judge. And as I've said any number of times prior, the shit is just starting. So yes, we can be happy that, Trump was nominated, that Trump was selected, and that we voted for him, and now he's installed, and he's got a great number of people working for him. Folks, I am telling you, the fight is just beginning, and it's going to keep beginning. And the people are there to hate. They are there to hate me, to hate you, and to hate any number of persons.
Are a hateful bigot. Who is this woman? What is she doing? I don't even know.
This is a member of CARE. The caring, loving Muslim. Stop right there, BZ. Just watch. A loving member of CARE.
Thank you. This is insane.
I'm not leaving.
This is what Jews in New York City have to deal with in a place of business. It's my office, Nora. Okay?
I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving.
She got with you? No. I asked him if he did. I'm just hoping that this person has a mental.
I demand jihad. I demand jihad.
I demand jihad. Some muzzy in the United States of America, I demand jihad.
ISIS to kill all of you.
Okay.
I hope ISIS will kill all of you. And you know what? At this point, I think that's all you need to see. Those folks, those cells are here. But the lies won't stop. Here's Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who was fact-checked. So she claimed that Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem called Venezuelans fleeing oppression dirtbags. Verdict, false. Noem referred to Aragua gang members as dirtbags, and gang members are. But it's the duty of the American media maggots and the Demorats, leftists and globalists, the DLG, to lie to you. The lies won't stop. The lies will never stop. But we talked about USAID, and essentially what we said was, these new revelations coming out, USAID, this is just the beginning. They stole on an unprecedented level. And we caught them. So they're pissed. Because the spice, which must flow, our hard-earned American taxpayer dollars, they've been dislodged. Big Balls has, in fact, barely scratched the surface. Now, it's interesting. I wouldn't say, or excuse me, I have said for any number of years, Demorats wouldn't have anything unless they had massive hypocrisy. There was a time when Demorats didn't care for USAID, and I made this discovery. I found this story, and as I said on social media, when I first discovered this, and I put this out on X, Twitter, and also on Facebook, and a whole bunch of my other social media. I'll show you the social media on a break. I found these articles. I found this video. If I can, I'm an old fat fuck in his 70s. And I found it. I'm not technologically savvy. If I can find it, they can find it. The answer is they don't want to find it. And that is intentional. Let's go up to comments here for a little bit. Hey, NCX Group is in the house. Like I said, Lost Wanderer is in the house, and Phoenix Exploration is in the house. Phoenix Exploration. I hope someday you find what you're looking for. Sounds like a song to me. Maybe a U2 song. This is from This Is What Makes This Delicious. This is what makes this absolutely delicious. Look at this over here. This is from Democracy Now! Democracy Now! We must have democracy now, not republic now. Democracy Now! Is USAID the new CIA? This is the headline from Democracy Now! Agency secretly built Cuban Twitter program to fuel anti-Castro protests. From Democracy, let me go back. This is from April 4th of 2014. Now, as per normal, in Rumble, if you guys missed or you came in the middle of the show or something like that, if you want to find out all my show links that are pertinent to what I was talking about, go to Rumble, Berserk, Bobcat, Saloon on SHR Media in Rumble, and on each show, I'll have my pertinent links to the show. Because my point of being here is finally I have the technology and the ability that I am, who am stupid, resoundingly stupid, that if I can find out how to manipulate this stuff, then other people can too. And if I can unearth this stuff, other people can too. And what the new technology has given me in terms of video is the ability to display to you, to prove, to verify that I'm not making this up. And I don't have to make this stuff up. Sometimes it simply writes itself. So when BZ says, bleh, then BZ provides evidence via articles and videos of what it is that he's saying. Democracy Now! April 4th, 2014. The U.S. secretly created Cuban Twitter to stir unrest. That's the name of an explosive new article by the AP, the Associated Press. How the U.S. Agency for International Development, they're mentioning by name USAID. And it's not about aid, because even the acronym says, well, it's not about aid. We could give a shit less about aid. U.S. Agency for International Development. They name them. They name them and shame them. Created a fake Twitter program to undermine the Cuban government. The communications network was called Zunio. Slang for a Cuban hummingbird's tweet. Imagine that. Tweet. Zunio. Yeah, I get that. I rock that concept. It was built with secret shell companies financed through foreign banks. Stop. Now, if this is happening just in this one instance here, that at one point Democracy Now! Said, heinous, fie that terrible USAID. It's here if you want to find it. And Demorats at one point, leftists, not so sure about globalists, but Demorats and leftists said, oh, that's unfair. This is bad. We don't like this. And then, of course, February of 2025. Oh, bad. Oh, bad. This is so terrible. Doge, very bad. Well, I've sang this song before. And I bet you have sung this song before. And all the Demorats and leftists and the globalists are saying, well, wait, Elon Musk, he has to go to hell. We have to burst into the buildings. And as this clearly illustrates, nobody elected Anthony Fauci. He made the greatest amount of money ever in a check ever written to a single individual in the federal government. Over $450,000 every year. He was the highest paid federal employee at this point ever. Did anybody elect Anthony Fauci? No. How about George Soros? Anybody elect him? No. Bill Gates elected? No. Hunter Biden, Amos Hochstein, Ye Jianming? No. How about Kamala Harris? Did she get elected? No. So how about you just shut the fuck up and sit down? Also, I point this out. Now, these are the numbers that were paid by big medicine to these leftists and Demorats right here. And you know me, I am not hesitant about naming and shaming. 1.9, Sanders. 1.2, Warren. 1.7, Warnock. 1.2, Wyden. 1.5, Schumer. 1.6, Murray, all leftists. Now, these are payoffs just in terms of big pharma to them. BZ, do you think that those payments didn't go to Republicans? Oh, you bet your ass they did. But these are the biggest complainers right now about Doge. So my point being, it's another if-then equation. If these fucksticks took this amount of money from big pharma, how much money was funneled to them through numerous shell corporations and various accounts, 5, 6, 7 filters deep to these people and all the rest of the Demorats and some of the Republicans who are tossing out faux umbrage about, oh, breastfeeding, pearl clutching. This is so terrible that our corruption is being revealed. How much money did these ass whores take? And then you also have to ask this, because what's next? Guaranteed. What's next? Let me take this off the screen for a second. You know what's coming next? Social Security, Medicaid. We're going to find, if you thought USAID was a clusterfuck, and we still don't know a fraction of what we need to know about USAID. Oh my God, the corruption that we are going to unearth in Social Security and Medicaid. Any entitlement, the corruption will be such, it will be staggering. By the way, I see people have given the program 2 thumbs up. If you would please subscribe to the SHR Media YouTube channel and subscribe to the SHR Media Rumble channel. I would greatly appreciate it. More vodka for me. Kids, boys and girls, don't drink vodka. It's bad. Only for adults. Do what I say, not what I do. Okay, thank you. Moving right along. Thanks to the people that are watching on a Saturday night. I never go on a Saturday night. Normally, if I go extra, I go on a Sunday. 10 people watching live right now. Thank you very much. Share the show far and wide if you would right now. Bring in more people, one and all. But my point being, if these folks are on the take that much just for big pharma, what else don't we know about them and the rest of the leftists and the Demorats and the Republicans who are sucking at the nipple of corruption? The other thing that I've said, and I had a big ass disclaimer at the beginning of the show because it's my show and these are my opinions. Anybody and everybody who is in D.C. who refused to secure the border is on the take and paid off from the cartels. The cartels own Mexico. The cartels own all the presidents now and in the past. And that's the only reason for refusing to secure the border. You're getting paid. You're getting paid off. I've said it before, and you have said it before. And this is what's really happening right now. Let's go back to the article. Because Democracy Now! Is saying, oh, this is terrible. This is absolutely terrible. Well, we're going to take a break right now because I need to do something. And if I need to do it, then I'm sure probably a lot of you need to do it too. Come right back if you would.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night Conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here's Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Hey fellas, are you mission ready? Coming in November to SHR Media. By way of Big E Jackson, you need to check out Mission Ready Men. It's a show that equips you to navigate our society's challenges from a biblical perspective with courage and conviction. Tune into Mission Ready Men as we examine our culture through the prism of biblical truths, teachings, and how to apply them in our daily lives. Prepare to step up, stand out, and step into your role as a man, as ordained by God. That's Mission Ready Men, hosted by Earl Jackson, coming this November on the SHR Media Network. And get mission ready.
Want to make an immediate difference in the life of a critically ill child? You have the ability to do that right now. Make a donation to Dream Makers for Life, the organization that restores dreams to seriously ill children and their families. You can sponsor a dream pack for a child, which contains a clear PVC backpack, a dry erase board adventure coloring book, a journal, and dry erase markers to inspire a critically ill child to envision a future adventure and hope. Want to become a dream maker for life yourself? Go to dreamforlife.org. That's dreamforlife.org. Help a child. Help a family. There is always hope.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back. The first half hour has gone. Boom. B-E-W-M. Boom. Quick like a bunny. Whew. Done. Gone. Well, I was talking to everybody, and thanks for being here tonight on this special session of more revelations about the craziness in government. And as I said, folks, you knew this. This was me. This was you. But we've been trying to tell other people who haven't been listening. We told them time and again that these things were occurring, and they didn't want to hear it. Well, I'm going to be playing some video. This is an article that I found from Democracy Now! We demand democracy now. We want it now. When do we want it? Democracy now. With an upraised fist, but it has to be a black fist. White fist is racist. Push the whites to the side. It must be a multicolored rainbow fist. BZ put that racist fist down. This is from an article April 4th of 2014, and Democracy Now! Says, basically, according to AP, the United States plan to use the platform by way of USAID to spread political content that might trigger a Cuban spring, or as one USAID document, a document from USAID said, quote, renegotiate the balance of power between the state and society. So what they did is they spoke to a guy named Peter Kornblue, director of Cuba Documentation Project at the National Security Archive. He wrote an article, which I will be referencing in just a few moments, in a place called Foreign Policy, which if that doesn't lean left, well, it sure as hell does. But the point I'm bringing out to you guys is the hypocrisy runs like a never-ending tsunami on the left. Oh, it's bad now. It was bad then when we found USAID was doing bad things to Cuba. We love USAID now. We absolutely love it. He recently wrote an article in Foreign Policy called Our Man in Havana. Would it surprise you that I have it? And again, I reemphasizingly, that if I can find this stuff, anybody can find this stuff. Let's listen just for a bit.
On Thursday, White House Press Secretary Jay Carney also defended the USAID's Cuban Twitter program.
Suggestions that this was a covert program are wrong. Congress funds democracy programming for Cuba to help empower Cubans to access more information and to strengthen civil society. These appropriations are public, unlike covert action. The money invested has been debated in Congress. In addition, GAO reviewed this program in detail in 2013 and found that it was conducted in accordance with U.S. law and under appropriate oversight controls.
So stop. That's Jay Carney, spokes unit under Obama. Well, gee, Obama loves democracy, doesn't he? Now, someone's lying here. Who is it? Is it that guy? Is it Obama? Or is it the guy that says, look, I found something really shady funded by USAID back in 2013 and 2014, and now that it's been unearthed, oh no, the cat didn't quite cover up all of this shit and someone found it. Now you have the Obama White House under Carney saying, what a load. That's just wrong. It's fake. It's false. It's a lie.
That was White House Press Secretary Jay Carney. Well, for more, we go to Madison, Wisconsin. We're joined by Peter Kornblue, directs the Cuba Documentation Project at the National Security Archive, a public interest research center located at George Washington University. He's the co-author of the forthcoming book, Back Channel to Cuba, The Hidden History of Negotiations Between Washington and Havana. He recently wrote an article in Foreign Policy called Our Man in Havana, Was USAID Planning to Overthrow Castro? Peter Kornblue, welcome back to Democracy Now! Well, why don't you answer that question? Talk about this Twitter account and what you have been most surprised by.
Oh, we have to reveal the truth here, don't we? About USAID. But everybody else says, nah, this isn't true. Carney says this isn't true. And Obama says this isn't true. Well, do you think these are people on the right making these statements? Do you think that chick right there is a conservative? No. Do you think Peter Kornblue is a conservative? No. But every once in a while, stopped clock.
USAID is clearly in the job of trying to bring about regime change in Cuba. It financed a program sending private contractors into Cuba secretly several years ago. To set up satellite communications networks. And now we found out through this extraordinary Associated Press story that it was trying to set up a secret Twitter network that has all the elements of a classic covert operation.
Covert operation, Associated Press. Has the Associated Press, to your knowledge or my knowledge, been tooting their own little horn about, hey, look what we uncovered back in 2014. Here's our article. You need to read it about what actually occurs at USAID. So I'm sure that AP said, no, they haven't mentioned anything about their article. They've tried to bury it and they hope that you don't find it. The fat guy found it. Anybody can find it. And let's see, who does this kind of crazy who has a history of trying to do crazy stuff in Cuba? Who tried to poison Fidel Castro's beard, for example? to kill him. Well, that wouldn't be the CIA, would it?
It has secret bank accounts, shell companies, multi-national platforms in terms of various countries being used.
Of course.
Nicaragua, Spain, Ireland, London. And in the background, a murky office in USAID called the Office of Transition Initiative, OTI, that clearly is competing with the Central Intelligence Agency for
there it is, the mention of the CIA.
Creative regime change programs in Cuba. It's a stunning story. It's an important story, and I'm glad we're talking about it.
That we're going to kill. That the AP has killed. That Democracy Now! Has killed. That they're probably very sad that anyone was able to find this. Well, certainly not the American media maggots, right?
How it was going to work. I mean, how the whole thing, the Associated Press expose, how they had the Cuban cell phone.
See, this is kind of back in those shadowy days when at least the American media maggots made a semblance of an attempt to be kind of ethical and do investigations. Now the American media maggots are absolutely curious about nothing. Nothing. They'd rather just look at press releases and publish all the bullshit that the U.S. government vomits out to them. Oh, look, new vomit from the government.
Phone numbers, they got a hold of them. And why this went to USAID in the end?
Well, USAID has funding from the U.S. Congress. This funding was done under the title of a democracy program, democracy promotion program. And every year, Congress is, basically throwing $20 million into USAID's lap and demanding that this money somehow get into Cuba to foster democracy. Now,
fostering democracy. Wait, I thought USAID was all about aid and little brown people and making their water drinkable and building new buildings and making roads and treating people and hospitals and medicine.
If we had better relations with Cuba, if the United States' goal wasn't regime change in Cuba, then that money could be used for scholarships, educational.
Okay, they're still leftists, and they can't not left.
Programs, humanitarian programs, training programs, but instead it's being used for this kind of operation, apparently.
Not apparently, it was. And I repeat repetitively, if I can find this stuff, then anybody else can find that stuff. Here's the article that was referenced. Now, this is by Peter Kornblue, director of the Cuba Documentation Project at the National Security Archive in Washington, D.C., co-author of The Cuban Missile Crisis, 1962. So apparently he knows a little bit about Cuba and then wrote this article in Foreign Policy and asks, and again, all these references, these websites and whatnot that I have found out will be in the show links at Rumble. If you go to rumble.com and in the field up there, just put Berserk, Bobcat, Saloon, and you'll go to this show on this date on February the 8th, and you'll see all the show links that I refer to here tonight. And that's true for every show that I have. Our man in Havana, was U.S. aid planning to overthrow Cuba? So you can go and read that article at length, at your leisure. There are more revelations coming about U.S. aid not providing aid, but hey, let's talk about regime change. Here's from hotair.com. Now, this is much more recently, February 7th of this year. Leaked U.S. aid docs helped overthrow Bangladeshi government with a military coup, like the coup they tried, the soft coup that they were in on in terms of Donald John Trump, OMB, Orange Man Bad, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head. Well, apparently U.S. aid is all about medicine and shelter and clean water and distributing beans and rice and meds and all that kind of stuff. No, there were, remember, as I indicated prior shows, the color revolutions, funding Hamas, funding Al-Qaeda, funding ISIS, and the censorship industrial complex. And let's see, destabilizing Romania. And how about a coup in Bangladesh? Again, this link will be up in the show. Under show notes, I refer you to them. And then the show I named this tonight, I wanted to make sure that you understand that USAID was outed by the Demorats themselves, by the Associated Press, back in 2013 and 2014. And back then, there was kind of a semblance of, we need to be fair, and we need to talk about some of the bad things that maybe the government is doing. Today, no bueno, not going to happen. So I named this show tonight because I wanted to make you aware of that. But I called it We Are Them and Them Are Us. Because if you think that you and me and maybe some of the other people around you, oh, you know what? We're probably the only ones that are objecting to this. No, let's listen to some real actual Americans.
Isn't it ironic? With the stroke of a pen. Bye-bye confusion. With the stroke of a pen, men are men, women are women. With the stroke of a pen, outside forces cannot funnel money out of our country. With the stroke of a pen, we, the American people, are put first again. The last 4 years have been a nightmare. A nightmare. I was numb. Most Americans numb. Our cries were unanswered. All of our hopes and dreams crashed. Inflation high. And then we went to the polls. And then that familiar face, yet orange, but a friendly, familiar face, came back to save the day.
Yeah.
I commend you, President Trump. Continue to do great things. We will support you. Make America great and first again.
American blacks are not monolithic. Everyone thinks they are. That's a load of shit, comma, bull. One each, one massive blivet. And then other Americans chime in as well.
Look, I understand why people in the government are losing their shit over Elon Musk's audit, but I don't understand why any American citizen would give a shit. I see all these TikToks, these people saying like he has no right to the money, like he shouldn't be in charge of your money. It's an audit. It's an audit. He's doing an audit. You know what I mean? He doesn't get to keep what he finds. It's just a fucking audit, dinguses. And also, it's like the prior administration hired 80,000 IRS agents to audit us. And now we're just like, well, we'll audit you too. And oh, what do you fucking know? What do you know? And it's the same goddamn people that bitch about free healthcare. We're going to free up $1 trillion fucking dollars. Maybe that'll cover it. Who knows? But like what, like the wiring, like how many wires you got crossed that finding out that we're wasting all of our money. And by the way, it's not wasted, it's laundered. Just so you know.
Haven't you felt like this recently, especially with all these expositions that are coming out? I guarantee you have felt like this, and I have felt like
not
this.
Really spending $500 million on condoms in Gaza. That's what you call money laundering, dinguses. And here I am yelling at my phone. I haven't been in this good of a mood in 5 years, and I'm yelling at my phone. I don't know why. I got to stop it. I feel great. I feel great. The chickens have come home to roost, bitches.
And haven't they? You bet they are. But I say again, can you imagine? None of this would have occurred had Cami Cackler been elected. And that's a story. Oh, I've covered that story so many times. Here's another individual, another American, who says, what the hell?
It feels so good to not be a fucking Democrat.
Bingo!
I'm glad I voted every election, starting with Obama. I voted not even knowing what I was voting for. When Obama became president, I didn't see no difference in the black community. And now I see why. I see what he stood for. It just feels so good that this year, well, last year, for election time, instead of running to them polls, because that's where my family and so-called friends was running, I said, let me do some research. Let me see what I'm about to go vote for as a grown-ass woman. And once I did my research and looked into this shit, Harris was the last person I would have casted my vote for. She denounced God in front of an audience. She wanted the twisted things being pushed in the schools. Something that I would never stand for a day in my life. These Democrats should be ashamed of themselves. But I know many is not.
No. They have no shame.
Because most of them stand for nothing and fall for anything.
They have no shame. They have no sense of reality. You and I already know that. And that's why this show, and I'm displaying everyone, some people, for you now. If I can find them, I'm going to display them. We are them, and them are us. We are not alone. We know things now. We cannot ever go back.
I'm 100% positive that I'm not the only American out there completely pissed off at what the findings of Doge are. As we're watching USAID, we're watching all these other things that are money has been spent on our hard-earned money for decades upon decades. And you think back to a time that probably this is the first time in American history where Americans have come together and figuring out right now how bad they've been ripped off. Probably all the way since 1776, when we dumped a whole lot of tea into a harbor and started a big fight.
For less than this.
Over a whole lot less. I believe this Doge is a great thing that's been created. And people are waking up. Of course, we still have our complete dumbasses out there with their heads in the sand that are believing the rats that are scattering because the news media says it. But talk about reparations.
Americans, like you and me, continuing to talk and saying the same thing that we are, as in, they're gobsmacked. They're dumbfounded. They're Americans that dutifully pay their hard-earned American taxpayer dollars and expect some return for Americans, for actual Americans.
So you're mad at Trump for trying to do something, but you weren't mad at Biden for doing nothing. I'm starting to think y'all don't want this country to win.
Imagine that.
I'm starting to think that's what the left is like this anti-America infiltration. Stay tuned.
People are coming to recognize and realize, quiet. We are, as Americans, realizing what's going on. It's only going to get bigger and stronger and louder and more strident.
I want back every goddamn tax dollar I ever paid in. Ever.
That's true too. Who wouldn't? We are due as American taxpayers so much. So much. This dude, again, I don't know this guy. He's an American. He pays taxes. His skin color is immaterial. Truly, to me, it makes all the difference in the world to Demorats and leftists because all they see is sex and race and sex. This guy is pissed. He's an American. He's been cast aside. They, me, we, you, us, all of us have wants and needs and expectations of the federal government, who has responsibilities to the government, to the people, to us first.
Let's have a conversation, folks. Before you crash out over some misinformation that you heard from your favorite politician, right? Whose job it is to poo-poo on everything the president is doing right now.
Yep.
That's the job right now. Just let's be honest. On both sides, they both do it. When Republicans are winning, it's the Democrats' job to crap all over it. If the Democrats are winning, it's the Republicans' job to crap all over it. I'm tired of that shit. Guys, before you crash out, before you film a video of yourself crying, before you post videos and send it out to all your friends saying Trump's going to take away your civil rights and he's going to stop all your benefits and funding, before you do that, do me a favor. Read the actual order. Listen to his press secretary and hear what they have to say. We got to do things differently right now. The Chuck Schumers, the Elizabeth Warrens, the Sonny Housens, the Joy Behars of the world, the Whoopi Goldbergs, their job right now is to basically crap on everything that man's going to do from here on out.
Exactly.
That's all they have is the grift. That's all they have, which is a shame. They have nothing else to offer you but fear. Don't fall for that, man. If we haven't learned anything else from the last 8 years, we at least learned that we should read things before we react to things. This is a short conversation, folks. It's really simple. You want to tamp down on the hate and division in this country? Read. If you don't, keep doing what you're doing. But I'm not playing that game with you.
That's a smart guy. That's an intelligent guy. How do you hold people in thrall? You keep them in fear, and then people who are fearful are compliant and malleable and will, oh, you're going to lose X, Y, and Z. No, like that guy said, try thinking for yourself. Try being a better person. Try attempting to understand what's directly in front of your face and see it. Actually see it.
Y'all, it is too many traitors in America that's in office. Too many. They are a traitor to America. They take our taxes and just give it to everybody.
Thank you.
Except for us. Trump said that in his last term. What did he say? What the hell do you got to lose? Your schools are shitty. Your neighborhoods are shitty. And how many politicians we done went through? Huh? How many? Huh? How many black organizations we done went through? Huh? How many? And look at the neighborhood still. Shitty. Look at the schools. Shitty. And here go a man trying to make sure the ones that's coming up now gonna get that real education, not the education they was giving, because they was holding them down. They was making sure y'all stay free and dumb.
After this woman, we'll be taking a break.
This one gonna make sure you're free and smart. What's the problem? What's the problem?
Brainwashing.
Would you want our kids to be out here naked every day, looking like little tramps? Brothers out here shooting up every day, shooting each other. That's it. So y'all was fine with all that. All that was okay.
Apparently.
People coming over the border, graping and essaying our children.
Why do you think, folks, that I do the HeyJackass.com Chicago death toll update? So that you can see what's happening directly in front of your eyes. Why do I choose Chicago? It's a leftist stronghold of death and illegal immigrants pushing actual Americans aside.
And murdering them. So all that is fine with you. But here go a man trying to stop all that. And y'all mad. Then you got another one. John F. Kennedy Jr. trying to tell you that all the food that we eating and we feeding our children is poison.
She means RFK. I know what she means. So do you.
Y'all mad about that? What is wrong with y'all? He's letting y'all know they've been cheating the taxpayers out their money. And you got a problem with that because some fake, phony freak didn't win? I'm glad she didn't win. I cannot stand that lady.
Thank you.
I cannot stand her. You don't ever try to identify as one of us when your ass ain't never been on the plantation. My black women back in the days, they went through some shit. And you don't sit there and you act like you could just take their identity. No, I cannot stand her. And I'm glad she didn't win. She's a fake, phony freak. Get over it. Trump is the president of the United States, and he's looking out for America first. Now, if you don't like it, hey, there's passports, there's planes. Get to stepping.
I love it when actual Americans are telling us now to our faces, this is what they really think. Because these exposés have been long in coming. In January, 4 years ago already, Rush Limbaugh had his last radio show. Rush Limbaugh, back in the 80s, and then strong in the 90s, gave actual Americans a voice. We miss him today. I miss him every day. What an incredible voice. Can you imagine what he would be saying about these times right now? We all wish he was back, but we haven't lost our voices.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Edge of Liberty. Join me right here on the SHR Media Network every Monday and Friday, 12 on the Pacific, 3 on the East Coast. On this show, we'll discuss news, politics, the government, how cranky we are about the government, and more. If you want to hear hard talk, good interviews, sarcasm, bad jokes, and oh God, that really is me in a nutshell. Either way, check me out right here on the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Friday, 12 Pacific, 3 on the East, on the SHR Media Network.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional, but it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out 7 Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with 7 Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com. 7armors.com. Faithful, vigilant, steadfast, passion.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back. It's the beginning of the second hour on my special Saturday show. I had too much stuff, program note. I should point this out right now. Tuesday night, which is why I felt compelled to do this tonight. This is all politics all the time tonight. Tuesday night, I'm going to have the return of filmmaker Edward Monge. And Edward will be here along with Nate Rudd. They are, especially Nate Rudd, is a Sasquatch investigator, had a Sasquatch encounter in the state of Washington. So Nate will be here. Edward Monge, he has released 1 or 2 films already. A great guy. He has an interest in UFOs, the paranormal, Sasquatch. So if your interest is kind of that nature, you need to know about some of Edward Monge's stuff. So he's going to be here for roughly an hour along with Nate Rudd. Alan Thomas, I invited him, but he's recuperating from back surgery. So if you have some extra prayers right now, folks, throw them out if you would. Well, for 2 people, let me say this right now. Throw some prayers out for Alan Thomas, who is recuperating from back surgery. And if you happen to have some extra prayers as well, please throw some out for my very good friend and a great friend of this show, Lonnie Poindexter, who went in for heart surgery the beginning of, I might get this wrong by a couple of weeks, either the latter portion of December or the early portion of January. But he's been recovering. He was in IC for a while, and he's recovering. He's doing better. Alan is doing better. When they both feel better, I would like to have them back in the show. But extra prayers, please, for my good friends, Lonnie Poindexter, heal up, and Alan Thomas. Please, if you would, heal up. We could always use some extra prayers. And as I've indicated, you want to know what's happening? This is happening.
All the people that have gone out there against the mainstream media and said, you're going to call us racist, you're going to call us potential Timothy McVeighs. Fuck you. War.
It is war. Don't think that it's open war. Don't think that it isn't open war, because it's been declared, openly declared by leftists. They've said it. Politicians have said it is open war. Now, in terms of Doge and the revelations, we knew. Where do you think, folks, this massive deficit, this huge debt, from whence was it stemming? And how do you get inflation? Overspending. Now, does that mean that Republicans don't spend like drunk sailors? Bush sure as shit did, and a lot of other people. But sooner or later, you run out of other people's money. We knew the U.S. government runs a $2 trillion deficit every year. We're in debt almost $40 trillion. And every time someone tries to cut something in Washington, the whole city screams bloody murder. The question is why? Now we know everybody was getting paid. Everybody was getting some. New York Times paid. Politico paid. Bill Kristol paid. Ukraine paid billions. Viktor Orban's political opposition paid, getting paid. Left-wing political opposition in Poland paid, getting paid. BBC getting paid. They are getting paid.
Okay, so we knew the U.S. government runs a $2 trillion deficit every year. We're in debt almost $40 trillion. And we also knew that anytime anyone tries to cut anything in Washington, the whole city screams bloody murder. Okay, so the question is just why? Well, now we know. The money is all going to them. It's like round tripping to them. New York Times getting paid. Politico getting paid. Bill Kristol, perennial warmonger, getting paid. Ukraine getting paid. Like 11 out of 12 publications, Ukraine getting paid.
Incredible.
Viktor Orban, who's the prime minister of Hungary, was saying that he's very popular in Hungary. His political opposition funded by USAID.
Thank you.
In Poland, the left-wing political opposition funded by USAID, and on and on and on it goes.
BBC, you wonder why everyone in the UK, so yeah.
Like
I couldn't believe the BBC is getting paid.
Every left-wing organization in the world seems to be getting paid by this slush fund at USAID, which disperses about $50 billion a year. That's $1 billion a week. That's actually a lot of money.
1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion, 10 billion. Pretty soon you're talking actual cash.
And so it makes you wonder, the left in general tries to portray itself as a movement of the people, that is grassroots. This is the exact opposite. This is AstroTurf. This is basically money coming from the top down out of Washington to fund all of these groups, maybe not even in the United States, like all over the world. So it makes you wonder, what is the real level of local support for these left-wing policies all over the world?
That brings up, and that is why I played that for you. The money isn't fake, but what if all this leftist support is fake? What if your votes don't count? What if you've been told everything that is wrong and incorrect, and people are saying, look at all the money that's going over here. So that means these people are worthy of this money. These are beautiful, incredible causes that are deserving of your hard-earned American taxpayer dollars. But what if they're not? What if it's been an absolute running river of American taxpayer dollars, and they're all going down the throats of Demorats, leftists, and globalists, the DLG. And they're pissed. They're pissed in a way that you will never begin to understand. And that's why they want to get violent. But what they're looking for is they're looking for that little match. If I had a match right now, I'd go, because they're looking for that piece of tinder. They're going to spark it. We can't fall for that. But sooner or later, bad things are going to happen. And the people that are pushing are them. Now, again, all of these things, these references of which I make, are going to be at the end of the show on Rumble. Go to rumble.com, and then you'll see my show, tonight's show, February 8th, 2025. We are them and them are us. And you'll find all the show links. Here's another show link that I want to make everybody aware of. You can go to Doge. If you're on X, Twitter, you can go to Doge, D-O-G-E, the Department of Government Efficiency, and they will show you through all of this the things that they're doing. If this isn't transparent, I don't know what is. The Obama administration was never transparent. The Biden regime was never transparent. If you want to find out what Doge is doing, go here. They're not hiding anything. Also, I recommend this. The link will be in my show. You want to find out what's going on? Let's refresh this. More things may have occurred since I put this up about an hour ago. These are presidential actions. You can look at this yourself. It's there to be found, and they want you to find it. Go to whitehouse.gov/presidential actions. By the way, thanks to Whiskey Dale, who is in Rumble Chat right now. Not Rumble Cat, Rumble Chat. Thanks for being there, Whiskey Dale. Oh, and I also need to thank Whiskey Dale once again, for the Clyde, the Berserk Bobcat of the official Bobcat of the Berserk Bobcat Saloon, was given to me by Whiskey Dale. I will always be grateful to him for Clyde. Look at this. Presidential actions, whitehouse.gov, addressing egregious actions, the Republic of South Africa, protecting Second Amendment rights. The Biden regime and Obama regime didn't give a shit about your Second Amendment rights. Establishment of the White House Faith Office. Trump announced appointments to the White House Faith Office. More protection of Second Amendment rights. imposing sanctions on the International Criminal Court, eradicating anti-Christian bias, memorandum for the heads of executive departments and agencies, keeping men out of women's sports. It goes on and on and on. It's winning. It's never stopping. I can't keep up with this stuff. It's fabulous. It's rolling in a way that no president and a cabinet have ever done this great amount of things before in such a stellar speed. It's staggering. And it should be. I say, I've said for quite some time, if you want to have a tax revolt, treat individuals like businesses. And then you would finally understand where your taxes are going and how much it cuts to the quick. If you're not aware, businesses have to pay quarterlies, which means that it doesn't just come out of a paycheck and you never really see it. You never really think about it because that's the purpose, is to, no, don't pay any attention to how we're taxing you in such a fucking usurious rate. If people had to pay quarterlies and it wasn't just automatically deducted out of their paychecks, there would be a tax revolt. And there should be torches and pitchforks. Because only then would you begin to understand, my God, how the government is gobbling up everything you make and being distributed. It's why I've said, 10th Amendment time, 10th Amendment time, except for a select few things. All the rest of the crap, which isn't crap, ought to be pushed down to the states. Why should your local money, why should your taxpayer dollars go away 1,000 miles away or more to DC when you will have more say about what goes on with your hard-earned American taxpayer dollars at home? That's what the federal government doesn't want. It's all about power and control and your money. And you're finding out about it right now, aren't you? Do you like it? Are you having fun finding out what actually has been occurring to you now for literal decades? And no one before Trump would even consider revealing this to you.
Well, look, I mean, my frustration with USAID goes back to my time in Congress. It's a completely unresponsive agency. It's supposed to respond to policy directives of the State Department, and it refuses to do so.
I'm sorry, this is as loud as this goes.
So the functions of USAID, there are a lot of functions of USAID that are going to continue, that are going to be part of American foreign policy, but it has to be aligned with American foreign policy. I said very clearly during my confirmation hearing that every dollar we spend and every program we fund, will be aligned with the national interest of the United States. And USAID has a history of sort of ignoring that and deciding that they're somehow a global charity separate from the national interest. These are taxpayer dollars. And so I'm very troubled by these reports that they've been unwilling to cooperate with people who are asking simple questions about what does this program do, who gets the money, who are our contractors, who's funded. And that sort of level of insubordination makes it impossible to conduct the sort of mature and serious review that I think foreign aid writ large should have.
They're not cutting off the foreign aid. This is not a permanent cutoff of foreign aid or any of this stuff. Basically, what he's saying and what people are saying is we're putting the brakes on this crap until we find out where's it going? To whom is this accountable? And we're discovering none of these people are accountable to anybody. They're not accountable to Congress. They couldn't give a shit about Congress. They're not accountable to you and to me. We're the people who fund it. The American taxpayer funds all of the United States. And by dint of USAID and all sorts of other venues, the American taxpayer funds the planet. Understand that. Your tax dollars fund the planet. The The discoveries of Doge just aren't about taxpayer funds. Like the other gentleman said, is this reality? Do we know what reality is right now? Because USAID was funding essentially an alternate reality, a handcrafted pseudo reality all over the world, not just in the United States. They were buying off the media to make you think different things. They were pushing advertiser boycotts to make you think different things. They were pushing war propaganda to make you think different things. They were funding opposition groups opposing the United States, which means you. They were funding lawfare against the current president of the United States. They didn't want him back because of this. And now everything essentially is coming down to a big old crash. The Congressional Budget Office revealed that Congress spent $516 billion in 2024 on programs with expired oversight. Unauthorized programs. These programs expired. No more authorizations. They're done. And the CBO said, well, you may think they're done, but they're not done. $516 billion on programs that should have been killed. Now, would it shock you to think that there are rules about unauthorized programs? Lawmakers ignored them. They don't care what you think or what you say. Billions continued to flow without approvals or authorizations of any kind because you've never paid attention before. They've gotten away with it before, and they will keep getting away with it. And bread and circuses. They want you to watch TV, sit down, shut up, open your wallets, and pay. 251 more authorizations are set to expire this year. $892 billion in defense spending. Congress keeps writing blank checks. The last time the United States of America had an actual budget approved fully by Congress is, 94, 95, back under Clinton. As in, hashtag, what the hell? This isn't governance. This is abject, rife, naked corruption on a level that no one has ever seen before. Congress is recklessly burning through your cash on programs they haven't even bothered to approve. Am I making this up? No. That's the Congressional Budget Office. Well, let's look at this. We mentioned the media. The AP, the Associated Press, who published that article in 2014, they got $619,000. Here's a graph that shows the time of all transactions to recipients from the Department of State, from the U.S. Agency for Global Media. Let's look at this. Okay, started peaking in 2018, 2019, 2020. And then who's been the recipient of large yes? The Associated Press, the Associated Press, the Associated Press, the Associated Press, the Associated Press. And by the way, the Associated Press, should you just have tuned in. This is something, oh shit. I may as well do this. Because now it gets good.
It's time for happy stories and good times.
And good times. So, who's throwing kittens these days? Who's shitting kittens and car parts and camshafts? Why, it would be journalists. Let me say it. Journalists. This is, breastfeeding, pearl clutching, 1A and 1B. Reporters without borders. Without borders, but never without you. Make a donation now. USA. Trump's foreign aid freeze throws journalism around the world in chaos. Are you like me? I think journalism around the world should be in chaos because it consists of nothing but a passel of dick-licking leftists. President Donald Trump has frozen billions of dollars around the world in aid projects, including $268 million allocated by Congress to support independent media and the free flow of information. Stop. Why should your tax dollars fund any media, any journalists? You've already seen over the past week on my show and many others, Sackhead Sean's, Earl's, Jersey Joe's. It's been tons of this. A ridiculous amount have been going to the media. Well, they've been funding NPR. They've been funding NPR TV stations and radio stations so that elitist white people can listen to classical music. And now Ludwig van Beethoven, with your amazing tax dollars being spent for a handful of people, because most people these days don't give a shit about classical music. If you like classical music, go out and buy your own. But we've gone out and bought our own journalists. Journalists, NPR, if you were worth half a shit, you'd be paid. If you wrote stories that people wanted to read, you'd be paid. But what's occurring in newsrooms all across the fruited plain and in the United States of America and probably all around Europe is that they're laying off people like nobody's business because the media, the American media maggots, aren't making money. I got 1 minute before the bottom of the hour break. Oh my God, I haven't even gotten through a third of the things I want to talk about tonight, but that's customary. You've gotten to the point now where you expect that of me. BZ, you shouldn't get through everything. I won't disappoint you tonight. I've gotten through most of the things that I really wanted to say. Why are we paying journalists? If they're good journalists, find a spot, land there, get paid, go to the private sector. But I should not be funding you. The American taxpayer shouldn't be funding you. Go out and work in the real world. And if you can't find a job, how about you just do what conservatives, especially in West Virginia, were told when they lost all their damn jobs? Learn to code.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to River of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and clear discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch River of Common Sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, but one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
Independence. With that declaration, America was born. Inspired by a belief in the God-given rights of every human being, and in the good that comes from exercising these rights well. The founders of our great nation chose independence, as do we. Hillsdale College accepts no government funding because independence makes possible the good to which we aspire.
Attention, all patriotic women of faith. Yep, I'm talking to you, sis. Are you looking for high quality, super soft apparel that reflects your love for country and your devotion to God? Look no further than Carry Girl Gear. Picture this. You rocking a tee so soft it's like being hugged by a cloud, all while showing off your love for God and country. Sounds dreamy, right? Well, welcome to reality, babes, because that's what we're all about here at Carry Girl Gear. We specialize in super soft tees, tanks, and more, designed specifically for the strong, patriotic woman who proudly wants to carry their message of faith and freedom. When you shop with us, you're not just getting a t-shirt. You're joining a community of like-minded women who are proud to wear their beliefs straight on their tees. So whether you're sipping sweet tea on the porch or leading the charge for faith and freedom, do it in a Carry Girl tee. Because life's too short for stiff, boring tees. CarryGirl.com, where faith and freedom meets fashion.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back. I'm back. This is the final half hour of the show. I don't suspect at this point that I will be going into overtime. God, I'd love to. I have enough material for a third damn hour tonight. I have more than enough material for a third hour tonight. So to those who had no idea that I was doing a show tonight, thanks to you who are here and you're listening live, and I would expect that most people are going to be listening in podcast. Thanks to Whiskey Dale in the Rumble chat, and we have Jack Alexander in the YouTube chat, and Sean and Phoenix and NCX Group and Lost Wanderer. Thanks for taking the time to be here tonight. I really appreciate all of that. And I'm serious when I say that. The revelations will keep coming. They will not stop. And I can only hope, my fervent hope is that there is so much umbrage that something actually gets done. There's we need a revolution of some sort, because we can't be bent over and rectum screwed like this for the rest of our lives. This has to change. Unless if people decide during the midterms and or 2028 that, you know what, we love leftists, okay, then that means that you're going to get the government you deserve. And look how well that's working out for California and DC and New York and Chicago and any leftist urban rat cage. It's working really well. Where none of those places seem to give a raggedy, pustule-ridden fuck about actual American citizens. Imagine that. And it's showing up in Congress as well. This is Nancy Mace, as this indicates here. This is Nancy Mace indicating, showing an absolute level of, well, I really don't give a fuck. Take it.
The gentlelady has used a phrase that is considered a slur in the LGBTQ community and the transgender community. And let me please finish without interruption. And
tranny. I don't really care. You want penises in women's bathrooms, and I'm not going to have it.
Okay.
No, thank you.
It's
disgusting.
The gentlelady.
And who did that? Who pushed people to the point where they got there? There used to be a modicum of civility. My filter is fucking broken. My modicum of civility is gone. Who pushed us here? DLG, Demorats, leftists, and globalists. But we are finally beginning to realize we can't take this anymore. This is not just not sustainable, as leftists and Demorats like to tell us. Oh, sustainable. Everything must be sustainable. No, it's not sustainable. We tried to stop it. Marjorie Taylor Greene tried to stop it. This guy tried to stop it.
And there are so many abuses of AID. I found out that AID has given money to support the World Economic Forum. Why would the United States taxpayer be subsidizing the World Economic Forum when everybody that arrives over there arrives in a Gulfstream G5? And
that's true. You're funding the tune-up for their new Bugatti Veyron. You're funding the tune-up for their brand new 2025 Rolls-Royce Phaeton. It's your American taxpayer dollars that are doing this. This is a guy that I follow and have been following for quite some time, Kanioka the Great. A 2006 archived USAID website proclaimed the agency supported revolutions in Ukraine, Georgia, Lebanon, and Kyrgyzstan. USAID funded and trained thousands of journalists, lawyers, judges, election workers, conducted polls questioning election legitimacy, published reports alleging fraud, and helped oversee new elections, among other initiatives. Let's see, in any other time, that would have been called what? Bueller? Anyone? Yeah, regime change by way of the CIA. Who's also recipients of largesse? Well, again, hypocrisy. Thy name is Demorats and leftists and globalists with Grumman Gulfstreams and John Kerry and various other horse faces throughout the nation. Now, remember, the states can't have anything to do with education. The feds, the Department of Education. Oh, I'll get to that in just a second. See where I'm going? See how I do this? I'm wondering, you're kind of wandering through the fetid little convoluted portions of my knurled brain in here. But the NEA has said at one point, oh, wait a minute. No. Isn't the current mantra that the feds need to be in education right now? Isn't that what they're saying? Department of Education. Oh my God, don't tinker with the Department of Education. We need this. Let's see. Who's Randy Weingarten? A big labor unionist, a leader for the teachers. Did she have something to say about the feds? See, again, stop. If I can find this, anybody can find this. The American media maggots could find it if they wanted to. Ignoring it is intentional. Okay, bring back Randy Weingarten. Hit it.
States and localities run education. That's where 90% of the funding for education goes. They already run it. They should run it. The federal government should not run it. States and localities run education. That's where 90% of the funding for education goes. They already run it. They should run it. The federal government should not run it.
The federal government, I'm sorry again, the volume was low, but you get the point, and this will be up in the show notes for links. This is Randy Weingarten saying back on MSNBC that the feds have no constitutional authority to be in education. What? Doesn't that seem kind of weird to you? So, well, if it can get creative. Well, first let's ask, how did the Department of Education, how did it originate? Here's a story from reason.com. You should know by now that I was going to go here. If I ask a question, a good attorney always knows the answer to the question before it's asked. Why do we have a Department of Education? Jimmy Carter created it out of thin air during his regime. One of the worst presidents in the history of the United States. I had to live through this fuck nozzle. Public education existed well before 1980, but an unpopular President Carter wanted the nation's largest union on his side before an election. So he, in 1979, created the Department of Education out of the already existing Department of Health. So, Jimmy, we can thank Jimmy for that, can't we? What else happened in education with your money? Where did your money go? Wake up, BZ. Get cogent. Your hard-earned taxpayer dollars have been targeted against you for literally decades. As this article, this is just one little teeny weeny little segment. Committee on Education and Workforce. So, Workforce Committee Chairwoman Virginia Fox, Republican, North Carolina, on the House floor, said the Biden-Harris Education Department spent $1 billion in taxpayer money on so-called DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. So those initiatives that perhaps as a parent you didn't agree with, and if you went to a school board meeting about that or any number of reasons, the FBI targeted you as a terrorist. You were a local, domestic, hardcore terrorist under Jim Comey and certainly under Christopher Wray. He's gone now. And of course, notice one very important thing. Kash Patel has not yet been approved. He's his nominee by Donald John Trump, OMB, Orange Man Bad, the guy with the dead orange can on his head, to replace Wray at the FBI, Kash Patel. But has he been approved yet? No. They're going to obstruct as long as they possibly can. And we know that to be true. Now, the FCC, we know that the FCC blank checked 200, if I'm not mistaken, granted the purchase of 200 terrestrial radio stations by George Soros, the guy who hates you, the guy who's been the recipient of your American taxpayer dollar largesse to work against you. He purchased 200, they rushed it through committee at the FCC because Brendan Carr was not in charge at the time and said, hey, we've never done this before, but it's George Soros, so we need to do it. And he approved that purchase of Odyssey, AUDACY, by George Soros. Boom, rubber stamped, no problemo. Now, Brendan Carr is trying to stop money to NPR. Has he figured it out? Well, yay, that he's working on stopping it, because why should journalism be paid for by taxpayer dollars? And the answer is it shouldn't. Let you go out into the world of the free market economy, and if you're good, you'll find a spot. If you're a lump of shit, apparently you won't find any. Even if you're not a lump of shit, the American media maggots are not they're not overwhelmed with cash right now because nobody believes them anymore. And they placed themselves into that rather perilous fashion right now. We're going to break to this. And this is one of the reasons that RFK, there is such a pushback on RFK. In 1986, this is what a little kid got. In 2024, this is what a little infant got. Why? Why are you attempting to overwhelm infants with this kind of chemistry? This is just nuts. The Democrat Party is toxic. And so I say, likely they probably won't be coming back, but we've got midterms next year, which is why we can't stop. I will not stop pushing. I will not stop doing shows like this.
Why is the Democratic Party viewed as toxic by so many? Like, even people inside the party acknowledge that.
I think that this is John Fetterman, as you can see. Democrats have a huge Y-U-U-U-U-U-U-G, a huge problem. And Fetterman, listen to what he has to say.
Their primary currency was shaming and scolding and talking down to people and telling them, hey, I know better than you, or you're dopes, or you're a bro, or you're ignorant, or, don't you, how can you be this dumb? I can't imagine it. Like, and then, by the way, they're fascists. How can you vote for that? And, when you're in a state like Pennsylvania, like, I know and I love people that voted for Trump, and they're not fascists. They don't support insurrection.
Doesn't it make you wonder what's going to happen to John Fetterman in the future? If the Democrat Party doesn't tank and implode in and of itself, what kind of a future does John Fetterman truly have? Does he have enough votes to keep Pennsylvania? Does he have enough votes to vote appropriately and logically and rationally? Who the hell knows?
And those things. And if you go to an extreme and you become a boutique kind of a proposition, then you're going to lose the argument. And then we have done that. When I show up at like a working site, I can all but guarantee you, if they're politically engaged, who they vote for, why they would vote there, and they just think they want to identify with people that seem to be looking out for me. Or for me, I described the 24 election was not about obscure kinds of policies. It's a gut check kind of vote. And they are going to ask themselves, who is going to protect or project my personal view of the American way of life? And who's the better match for what I believe is the American way of life? And I'm going to vote for that person. And that's why I think Trump won. And then, like, for example, the new leadership of the DNC, the vice chair.
Who except this guy, John Fetterman, is saying these things? Manchin kind of sort of started to, then he left, and he left because he couldn't take it anymore. Where are the other Fettermans in the Democrat Party? Name some.
Abolish ICE. And now the other thing saying, defund the police and those things. I'm concerned that we really haven't paid attention on what happened. And have we looked up at the scoreboard and been like, oh, by the way, we've lost.
How do Democrats win back white men like yourself?
I don't know. And truthfully, I'm not sure if that's possible, to be honest.
Not under the current regime, not under the current ways and means. The Demorats are at a crossroads, which means that this country is at a crossroads. Either we win or we lose. It's no more complicated than that. I've said for a while, it's not Republican versus Democrat. It's not conservative versus libtard. It's gotten to the point now where it really is good versus evil. You tell me the good in an abortion, go. And you tell me a halfway position of aborting. Oh, the baby only comes halfway out. And then what? We shove the rest inside? What's the halfway portion of cutting off a dick? What's the halfway portion of cutting off a child's tits? What's the halfway portion of a mother who has a son that wants a daughter, telling his son time and time again, oh, you're a little girl, dresses them up in dresses, takes them to school, brainwashes them, and then subjects that individual, that young boy, to chemical, mental, and physical butchery because the medical complex, big medicine and big pharma is going to make out and is making out like bandits. Doctors enriching themselves, doctors, nurses, hospitals, organizations, medical organizations making big bucks on the physical, chemical, and mental butchery of children. Well, okay, what's the halfway point of that? There is no halfway point. It's good or it's evil. Democrats have a big problem that even the New York Times recognized. We got no message. They're trying to oppose Trump. So trying to storm a building with ridiculous people, they're just being shown to be the fucking morons that they are, but they have a problem. Even the New York Times knows that they have a problem. I'm going to see if I can try to get this. What the hell has happened to James Carville? He has said for quite some time, you guys, say what you will about James Carville. I know what Bernie Sanders is going to say all the time. He's predictable. In a way, I kind of respect him for that. Okay, fine. The Demorats were scared shitless of Bernie Sanders because he was going to cut off the spice. So that's how you got Biden. And then Harris. And then the loss. Blah, blah, blah. James Carville has come along and said essentially, how stupid you guys going to be? So let me see if I can get this to play. James
For
Carville.
my outrage, these are part.
By the way, this is audio only. There was no video. This was on a radio show.
Like dramatic things, or just two things that Democrats have done that are so unmoored to what anyone in the country thinks or feels like. It's almost impossible. The first one is some Democrats, some progressives in New York, are advocating for bereavement pet leave. Okay, so in other words, if your cat dies, you get 3 days of paid leave.
Sure. And you should pay for that.
Does anyone even know, like in rural America, like where I grew up, how many dead animals in the entire history of the United States? Let me tell you something, a sentence that has never, ever, ever been uttered. Well, Martha, Fido died, so I can't bale the hay today. I mean, come on. I mean, please just think of how, fortunately, no one's going to overly publicize this, although the right's using it in some places. Just
like
how
me.
clueless you sound to people who are agrarian. It's like, you're living on a different thing. Life and death on a farm is something that happens every 6 hours.
Okay, that's just one illustration. But Carville used to be the most staunch supporter of Demorats and leftists. And what has happened to him? He's kind of starting to see common sense. Who also is falling into that category? Kind of Bill Maher. Did we see this coming? We should have. And when you lose these people and you get people on the left who won't stop lefting, Democrats are going to have a huge problem. A massive problem. And I'm going to go back here again.
It's time for happy stories and good times.
Because have I got some more happy stories for you? This is one of those stories where I've gotten to the point. There was a time not long ago when perhaps I would have been a bit sympathetic of something like this. But my give a shit and my filter and my sympathy have gone away. And that's courtesy of the DLG, Democrats, leftists, and globalists. You dragged me kicking and screaming here, and here I am. And I'm not going away, and I'm not backing down. So, BZ, what's your thought on this? Michigan legislator says she underwent sterilization to avoid pregnancy during the Trump presidency. Hundreds gather at the Michigan Capitol to protest Trump's politics. So let's name names. Here's a stupid person for you. Or, I guess you could say it's your body, your life. You do it however you want. But there's a point to me mentioning this and saying it's a happy story. Why, BZ? It's a happy story. That doesn't seem very nice of you. Michigan State Representative Lori Pohutsky, Demorat, Livonia, said Wednesday she underwent surgery earlier this year to become voluntarily sterile out of the fear of the future of reproductive health care access with President Donald Trump in office. Okay, well, she's on X. I'm on X. I'll tell you what I really think in just a moment. So I sent to her, and would you be surprised that I haven't gotten a response? Oh, I just haven't not gotten a response, but I've been blocked. I'll take that as a badge. I didn't use any F or S words to her. All I said was, I don't believe you. Prove it. Let's see the documentation and the paperwork. Because if you don't have any, you're doing this just as a ploy. Boom, B-E-W-M. Boom, you're out of here. You're out of here. Yay. So my response to her and other people like her, leftist white chicks, are insane. Some black chicks too, mostly leftist white chicks. To which I reply, more. Give us more sterilizations. Leftist white chicks, close your legs. No more men of any stripe. Why get an abortion? Just don't have intercourse. Period. End of statement. Why? We don't need your progeny. We don't need any more leftist kids. We don't need any more leftist pieces of human flotsam like you to try to destroy civilization, all of Western civilization. We don't need you and we don't want you. So more leftist white chicks need to do this. Please, if you would, sterilize yourselves. Shut up or put up. Do it or shut up. Here's another happy story. This will probably be the last one for the night. I don't think I'm going to be going into overtime. But it is a great story. This is an exquisite story. Taxes. Well, what about taxes? Well, let's listen.
So these are the tax priorities of the Trump administration that the president has laid out for members in that meeting today. No tax on tips, which is obviously a very public campaign promise that the president made. No tax on seniors' Social Security. No tax on overtime pay. Renewing President Trump's 2017 middle-class tax cuts. Again, these are the president's priorities. Adjusting the SALT cap. Eliminate all the special tax breaks for billionaire sports team owners. Close the carried interest tax deduction loophole. Tax cuts for Made in America products. This will be the largest tax cut in history for middle-class working Americans. The president is committed to working with Congress to get this done. So these are the tax priorities of the Trump administration.
Crap.
That the president.
Did you hear what she said? No tax on overtime. No tax on Social Security because, you've already been taxed up the ass for that. No tax on overtime, no tax on tips. Hey, folks, if that isn't great news, I don't know what is. I have so much more stuff to play, but it's the end of 2 hours. I've tried to do a creditable job of it, I hope that most people or more people watch and listen to this in podcast. And I'll see you next Thursday. Again, programming note, next Tuesday, I'm going to have Edward Monge in. He is a filmmaker who has already produced one to two films. I spoke to him last year, along with Alan Thomas, and Nate Rudd is going to be with us with Edward Monge. And why might you want to come in and listen to us in the Saloon next Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Pacific and 10 p.m. Central and 11 p.m. Eastern? It's because Edward Monge's big gig is paranormal, UFOs, and Sasquatch. So if you're into that stuff, show up Tuesday night. Then Thursday night, I'm having a guest who has been on my show before. He is a constitutional sheriff. He ran for sheriff of my county earlier last year, and unfortunately, he lost. He is a constitutional sheriff, a great constitutionalist, a great supporter of the Constitution and the United States of America. So we're going to be talking Constitution and law enforcement and what's been going on here locally in a red state, because what happens here is going to be and is occurring all across the nation. And then I may have another, who knows what's going to happen next week? Last week was almost beyond human ken. We're winning. We can't stop winning, but never give up the fight, because Demorats, leftists, and globalists, they will not stop. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, boys and gals, children of all ages, thanks for listening to me tonight on a special Saturday edition. Thanks to all the people who were in the chat room, whom I previously mentioned. Let's see, Melanie was in the show. Melanie Colette. Okay, I'm not going to say anything. She may be listening right now, so don't tell her that I decided wisely not to say anything, Melanie. So I had Phoenix in here, I had Melanie, I had Jack Alexander, I had Sean Lewis, I had Phoenix, NCX, Lost Wanderer, and also in Rumble Chat, I had Whiskey Dale. It was a great show. I enjoyed it. At 74, I still love doing this stuff. So until I can't, I'm still going to be here. I'm running out of time to say that, I'm promotional consideration by Lockheed Martin, by Shure and Electro Voice microphones, Arrakis boards, also Pratt & Whitney engines, and I'm going to be consorting with my KC-135 Kilo 1 refueling team.
Everybody quiet down now. Get some sleep.
Everybody.
I got through
Good night, Mama. Night, Ben. Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.